Marcus hasn't touched anyone in 18 months. Not really, not with intention, not with anything beyond the hollow mechanics of survival. But tonight, in the suffocating silence of his living room, he reaches out and traces his finger along the edge of a photograph, following the curve of a smile that exists now only in pixels and memory. Rachel, his wife, his soulmate, dead for a year and a half, and yet more present in this house than he is. The wedding photo stares back at him with accusations he imagines himself. They're 23 in this picture, impossibly young, impossibly hopeful, standing beneath an arch of white roses with their whole lives spread before them like an unopened gift. Marcus's hand in the photo rests on the small of her back, protective and possessive in the way of men who don't yet know that some things you can't protect anyone from. Some things come anyway. He sets the photo down and picks up another one. Then another. This is his nightly ritual, this archaeological dig through a life that ended but somehow keeps demanding his attention. Rachel at the beach. Rachel pregnant with Lily. Rachel on their daughter's first day of kindergarten. Rachel, Rachel, Rachel. A whole marriage reduced to glossy 4x6s scattered across a coffee table in a house that's become a mausoleum. Upstairs, Lily sleeps. 8 years old, and already acquainted with loss in a way no child should be. Marcus wonders if she dreams about her mother, if Rachel visits her there in that space where the dead sometimes feel generous enough to appear. He hopes so. He hopes his daughter gets something he doesn't, these dreams that flee the moment he opens his eyes. The ring on his finger catches the lamplight. Gold band, simple, engraved on the inside with words he's memorized like scripture. Forever isn't long enough. They'd thought they were being profound when they chose that inscription. Forever had seemed like a reasonable timeline when they were 23. Now Marcus knows that forever is an arrogant promise made by people who don't understand how quickly always can become never. The house is too quiet. It's always too quiet. A house with an 8-year-old should not sound like a library after hours. A house with life in it should have music and laughter and chaos. This house has none of that. This house is where joy came to die. Marcus walks to the kitchen and catches sight of Lily's latest drawing on the refrigerator. His chest constricts. It's the same drawing she's been producing variations of for months now, a crude stick figure of a woman with yellow hair floating in a blue sky surrounded by clouds and the childish scrawl that reads Mummy in Heaven, because Lily still can't spell heaven correctly, and Marcus doesn't have the heart to correct her. The next morning arrives with mechanical precision. 6:15, the alarm screams. Marcus silences it and forces himself upright. Shower. Shave. The face in the mirror looks older than 38. Grief ages you in ways that sun damage never could. By 6:45, he's waking Lily. She's curled in bed surrounded by stuffed animals, her blonde hair, Rachel's hair, exactly Rachel's shade, spread across the pillow. When she opens her eyes, Marcus sees the sadness living there, permanent resident behind green irises she also inherited from her mother. "Morning, sweetheart," he says, injecting false cheer into his voice because that's what good fathers do. "Morning, Daddy." Lily's voice is small. Everything about her has become small lately. Breakfast is cereal because breakfast is always cereal now. Lily pushes it around, creating tiny whirlpools in the milk, not eating. This is their script lately. Exchanges that go nowhere except to highlight how thoroughly both of them are failing at this new life they didn't ask for. 3 weeks into this particular version of hell, Marcus gets the call. Lily's teacher, Mrs. Henderson, her voice careful in that way voices get when delivering news you won't want to hear. Could he come in for a meeting? There are concerns. The school counselor would like to be there too. Marcus's stomach drops. He knows, of course. He's seen the signs, the declining grades, the withdrawn behavior, the constant drawings of heaven. The meeting is exactly as awful as Marcus anticipated. Mrs. Henderson and the school counselor, Mrs. Rodriguez, sit across from him with folders and data and documentation of Lily's decline. Lily's grades have dropped significantly, Mrs. Henderson begins. More concerning is her social withdrawal. She spends most recesses alone, drawing. Drawing what? Marcus asks, though he already knows. Pictures of her mother. Pictures of heaven, Mrs. Rodriguez answers. Marcus, Lily needs support beyond what we can provide. We'd like to recommend a program. She pulls out a brochure. Hope Harbor After School Grief Program. Specifically for children who've lost parents. Marcus stares at the brochure. He doesn't want Lily sitting in circles talking about dead parents, dwelling in sadness. But he's looked at those drawings. He's seen his daughter disappearing a little more each day. How often does it meet? Twice a week, Monday and Wednesday afternoons. That evening, watching Lily push her dinner around her plate, Marcus makes his decision. After she's in bed, he fills out the registration form. At the bottom, there's a question: what do you hope your child gains from this program? Marcus types, I hope she learns how to be happy again. The first session is the following Monday. Marcus drives Lily to Hope Harbor Community Center, a cheerful yellow building that looks aggressively optimistic. Inside, the grief group meets in a large room with beanbags and art supplies and motivational posters. One of the facilitators approaches them with a smile that actually reaches her eyes. Hi there, you must be Lily. She crouches to Lily's level. I'm Sophie. I'm really glad you're here. Sophie. Marcus forces himself to actually look at her. Mid-30s, dark hair in a ponytail, wearing jeans and a Hope Harbor t-shirt. There's something immediately warm about her. And you're Marcus, Sophie says, standing and extending her hand. I know this is hard, but I promise we're going to take good care of Lily. Marcus nods, not trusting his voice. Why don't you say goodbye to Lily, and we'll get started. Pick up at 5. Marcus kneels and hugs Lily tight. You've got this, sweetheart. I'll be back before you know it. In his car, he sits gripping the steering wheel, telling himself this is the right thing. It doesn't feel like being a good father. It feels like another failure. At 4:50, Marcus returns to Hope Harbor. He follows the sound of voices to the program room. The door is slightly ajar. He's about to knock when he hears it. Lily's laugh. Not the polite half-laugh she's been producing for 18 months, but a real laugh, genuine, and full of something that sounds impossibly like joy. Marcus freezes. He peers through the opening and sees Sophie leading some kind of game, and Lily is smiling. Actually smiling. Her whole face transformed into something he hasn't seen since before Rachel got sick. Watching his daughter remember how to be happy, Marcus feels tears stream down his face. When the session ends, Sophie emerges leading Lily by the hand. She takes one look at Marcus and understands immediately. She did really well, Sophie says quietly. She's a special kid. Marcus's voice comes out wrecked. Thank you. For whatever you're doing, thank you. Lily talks about her mom a lot. Rachel sounds like she was an amazing woman. And there it is. Sophie said Rachel's name, not your wife, or careful euphemisms people employ to avoid naming the dead. She said Rachel, like she was a real person who existed and mattered. You. Marcus has to clear his throat. You don't mind that she talks about her? Sophie looks genuinely confused. Of course not. Remembering the people we love is how we keep them with us. Something in Marcus's carefully constructed walls cracks. That night, after Lily is asleep, Marcus sits at the kitchen table with the Hope Harbor brochure, reading Sophie's bio. Pediatric nurse, volunteer grief counselor, lost her own father at age 12. Marcus stares at her photo longer than strictly necessary. Then he closes the brochure and goes to bed. For the first time in 18 months, something changed. A hairline fracture in the ice he's been frozen in since Rachel died. Narrative pause, engagement question. But here's what Marcus doesn't know yet. Opening your heart after loss isn't just about being ready. It's about facing the crushing guilt that comes with wanting to be happy again when the person you loved most is gone forever. So the real question is this: can a man who still talks to his dead wife's photograph every night, who still wears his wedding ring like a sacred oath, can that man learn to love again without destroying himself with guilt? 3 weeks after that first session at Hope Harbor, Marcus does something he hasn't done in 18 months. He laughs at a joke that has nothing to do with his daughter and everything to do with the woman standing in front of him holding a coffee cup with a cartoon llama on it. Sophie had been explaining why one of the kids called her Miss Llama Sophie last week. Something about a misheard name and a field trip gone wonderfully wrong, and Marcus laughs. Really laughs. The sound escapes his throat before he can catch it, genuine and surprised, and for approximately 3 seconds he feels something adjacent to happiness. Then the guilt hits him like a freight train, and the laugh dies in his chest, replaced by that familiar suffocating weight that reminds him he has no right to joy, no right to lightness, no right to stand in a community center parking lot at 5:17 on a Wednesday evening laughing at llama jokes while his wife rots in the ground. Sophie sees it happen, watches his face transform from open to shuttered in the space between heartbeats. She doesn't push, doesn't ask what's wrong, doesn't do any of the invasive things people usually do when they witness someone's emotional collapse in real time. She just shifts the conversation back to Lily, back to safe territory, and Marcus is grateful in a way he doesn't have words for. But something has shifted. Something small and dangerous. Because for those 3 seconds before the guilt, Marcus felt like a person instead of a ghost, and now that he knows what that feels like, he can't quite unknow it. The weeks begin to blur together in a new way, not the grey sameness of before, but something more textured, more complicated. Marcus finds himself arriving earlier to pick up Lily, staying later to talk with Sophie. At first it's about Lily's progress, which is remarkable. His daughter is blossoming in ways that make Marcus's chest ache with relief and regret. She's smiling more, eating better, engaging with kids at school. The drawings of heaven don't stop, but they're joined now by other drawings, rainbows and animals, and increasingly complex portraits of the Hope Harbor kids. She talks about Sophie constantly. Miss Sophie said this. Miss Sophie taught us that. Miss Sophie understands. And gradually, almost imperceptibly, Marcus's conversations with Sophie expand beyond Lily. They talk about work. Sophie shares stories from the pediatric ward that are equal parts heartbreaking and hilarious. Tales of resilient children who teach her more about courage than she teaches them. Marcus mentions his architecture projects, the way he used to love design before grief made him mechanical. Sophie asks questions that aren't polite conversation fillers, but actual curiosity. What drew him to architecture? What does he love about creating spaces? When was the last time he built something just because he wanted to? Marcus can't answer that last question. Can't remember the last time he wanted anything beyond making it through another day. But here's the thing about grief that no one tells you. It's not linear, it's not predictable, and it sure as hell doesn't follow the neat 5-stage model they teach in psychology classes. Grief is weather. Some days it's a light drizzle you can function through. Other days it's a hurricane that flattens everything in its path. And some days increasingly it's just clouds, present but not overwhelming, there but not destroying. Marcus is having more cloud days. He doesn't know if that's because of time, or Lily's happiness, or the fact that Sophie says Rachel's name like it's normal. Like the dead deserve to be spoken about in present tense, even though they exist only in past tense. How was Rachel with Lily when she was younger? Sophie asks one evening, and Marcus nearly drops his car keys. They're standing by his car, Lily already buckled in and absorbed in a book. The question is so casual, so absent of the careful tiptoeing everyone else does. She was... Marcus stops, swallows hard. She was incredible, patient in ways I'm not, creative. She could turn anything into a game or a lesson or an adventure. Lily learned her alphabet through songs Rachel made up. She learned to tie her shoes through some elaborate story about bunny ears and fox dens. He's smiling now, lost in memory. Rachel made everything magical. Lily has that quality too, Sophie says. That ability to find wonder. She gets that from her mom, and there it is again. That acknowledgement that Rachel isn't just history, isn't just trauma, but a person who shaped the people she left behind. Marcus feels something loosen in his chest, some knot he didn't know he was carrying. Thank you, he says quietly, for not treating her like she's something we shouldn't mention. Sophie's expression is soft but firm. The people we love don't stop mattering when they die, Marcus. They're part of our story. Erasing them doesn't help anyone heal. That night, Marcus sits in his living room with the photographs, but he's not crying. He's smiling, remembering the bunny ear shoe-tying story, remembering Rachel's terrible singing voice that Lily inherited, remembering the way she could make ordinary moments extraordinary. And for the first time since her death, the memories don't feel like they're killing him. They feel like they're keeping her alive. But here's what Marcus doesn't see coming, what he's completely unprepared for. The way grief and attraction can occupy the same space in your chest, the way you can be, remembering your dead wife, while also noticing how Sophie's eyes crinkle when she laughs, the way you can be loyal to a memory while your body betrays you by responding to someone new. It starts small. Marcus notices that Sophie smells like vanilla and something citrus, notices that she has a habit of tucking her hair behind her ear when she's thinking, notices that her laugh is contagious, that the kids at Hope Harbor gravitate toward her like she's some kind of emotional magnet, that she's patient and kind and fundamentally good in ways that make her beautiful beyond just physical appearance. And Marcus hates himself for noticing. 6 weeks into Lily's participation in Hope Harbor, it starts raining during pickup. Not a light drizzle, but a torrential downpour, the kind that turns parking lots into lakes within minutes. Marcus pulls up to find Sophie standing under the building's small overhang with Lily and 2 other kids whose parents are running late. Lily has forgotten her jacket, again, always, because 8-year-olds exist in a perpetual state of forgetting essential items. "I can wait with the others," Sophie says when Marcus explains he needs to run to the car for Lily's emergency jacket. "But Lily's going to get soaked getting to your car." "I'll pull up closer," Marcus says, but Sophie is already shrugging out of her own jacket. "Take mine, for Lily. I'll be fine until the other parents get here." It's a small gesture, the kind of practical kindness that shouldn't mean anything but somehow means everything. Marcus takes the jacket, still warm from Sophie's body, and helps Lily into it. It's enormous on her, swallowing her small frame, and Lily giggles. "Miss Sophie, I look like a turtle. The most fashionable turtle in all of Hope Harbor," Sophie declares, and Lily giggles again. And Marcus watches this exchange and feels something dangerous blooming in his chest. "I'll bring it back next session," he tells Sophie. "No rush. I have others." But Marcus finds himself holding onto that jacket longer than necessary once they're home. Finds himself noticing that vanilla citrus smell embedded in the fabric. Finds himself feeling like a creep and a traitor and a man who's losing his mind because he's 38 years old, getting emotional about a borrowed jacket that smells like a woman who is not his wife. That night, he doesn't take the jacket to the laundry room. He hangs it on the coat rack by the door, and he hates himself for it. The next Monday, Marcus arrives at Hope Harbor with Sophie's clean jacket and a strange nervousness in his stomach that has no place being there. Sophie thanks him, takes the jacket, mentions it was her favorite, and Marcus nods like a normal person even though his brain is screaming that he noticed it was her favorite, that he could tell from the way the cuffs were slightly worn and the way it fit her perfectly and the way she looked slightly bereft without it last week. What the hell is wrong with him? "Listen," Sophie says, and there's something different in her tone, something tentative. "Lily mentioned it's almost her birthday. Next month. She'll be 9. She was talking about maybe having a small party, some of the kids from the program. I was thinking we could do something here at Hope Harbor if you're comfortable with that. Nothing big, just cake and games. Give her a chance to celebrate with kids who understand her." Marcus should feel grateful, should feel touched that Sophie is thinking about his daughter's happiness. And he does feel those things, but he also feels something else, something he can't quite name, something that sits in his chest like a question he's afraid to ask. That would be, he clears his throat, "That would be really kind of you." "It's not kind," Sophie says, and her smile is genuine. Lily's special. She deserves to feel celebrated. That evening, Lily talks non-stop about the potential birthday party, about which games they might play, about whether they'll have chocolate or vanilla cake. She's animated in a way Marcus hasn't seen in years, and watching her happiness, Marcus makes a decision that terrifies him. He asks Sophie if maybe, possibly, if she's not too busy, if it wouldn't be weird, if she'd like to come over for dinner sometime so they can plan Lily's party properly. The words come out awkward and clumsy, and Marcus is 40% certain Sophie will say no, will recognize this for what it is, a widower testing the waters of human connection. A man who doesn't know how to be a person anymore, trying to remember what normal social interaction looks like. But Sophie says yes. She says yes, and Marcus's heart does something complicated in his chest. Something that feels like hope and terror having a knife fight, while guilt watches from the corner, placing bets on which emotion will win. The dinner is scheduled for Friday. Marcus has 5 days to prepare, which is approximately 4 days and 23 hours, too much time to overthink every aspect of this situation. He cleans the house in ways it hasn't been cleaned since Rachel died, scrubs counters that were already clean, organizes closets that didn't need organizing, tries to decide if he should take down some of Rachel's photos, and then feels like a monster for even considering it. Tries to plan a menu that's impressive but not try hard, and then realizes he hasn't cooked anything more complex than pasta and jarred sauce in over a year, and maybe he should just order takeout and pretend he made it. And no, that's insane. He's not a sitcom character. He can cook a normal meal for a normal dinner that is completely normal, and not at all weighted with the significance his brain is assigning to it. By Friday afternoon, Marcus is a wreck. He's made chicken marsala, one of the dishes Rachel used to love, and oh God, is that weird? Is it inappropriate to serve another woman his dead wife's favorite meal? Should he have made something Rachel never ate, something with no history, no memory attached? But that's impossible, because every meal has history. Every recipe has Rachel's ghost somewhere in it. In the kitchen where she used to dance while cooking, in the plates they picked out together, in the table where they ate thousands of dinners as a family before cancer made family a different configuration. Lily is vibrating with excitement, which helps distract Marcus from his spiral. She set the table, carefully, with the precision of someone trying to do something exactly right, and she's wearing her favorite dress, the purple one with flowers that Rachel bought her 2 years ago that's getting too small now, but Lily refuses to give up. Is Miss Sophie going to like our house? Lily asks for the 17th time. She's going to love it, sweetheart. Do you think she'll want to see my room? Maybe. If you want to show her, I do. I want to show her my drawings and my books, and the picture of Mommy I keep by my bed. Marcus's heart clenches. That's a great idea, Lil. Sophie arrives at 6:30 exactly, which Marcus both appreciates and finds mildly terrifying because punctuality suggests she takes this seriously, whatever this is. She's wearing jeans and a soft blue sweater, carrying a bottle of wine and a children's book wrapped in birthday paper. I know the party isn't for a few weeks, Sophie says, handing the present to Lily, but I couldn't resist. Lily tears into it immediately. Where did Marcus go wrong in teaching patience? And gasps. It's a beautiful illustrated book about a girl and her memories of her mother. Marcus recognizes it from the Hope Harbor Library, a book specifically designed for children processing parental loss. This is my favorite book in the whole world, Lily declares, clutching it to her chest. Thank you, Miss Sophie. You're so welcome, sweetheart. And just like that, the evening begins. Marcus pours wine a Cabernet Sophie brought that's probably too nice for chicken marsala, but he's not about to complain. They sit at the table, the three of them, and it's painfully awkward for approximately 30 seconds before Lily fills the silence with her endless chatter about school and friends and the stray cat she saw in the yard yesterday that she's convinced is lonely and needs a home, and can they please adopt it? We'll think about it, Marcus says, which is parent, code for absolutely not, but Lily takes it as encouragement and launches into an elaborate argument about responsibility and love, and how the cat probably misses its family. Sophie catches Marcus's eye across the table, and they share a look, one of those wordless adult communications. That translates roughly to your kid is adorable and exhausting in equal measure. And Marcus smiles, really smiles. And this time, the guilt that follows is smaller, more manageable, like maybe it's learning to coexist with other emotions instead of consuming everything in its path. The chicken marsala is decent, not Rachel, level good, but edible. Sophie compliments it with what seems like genuine appreciation, not pity, praise. They talk about Lily's birthday party plans, about themes and games, and whether 9-year-olds are too old for piñatas. The conversation is easy in a way Marcus didn't expect, punctuated by Lily's interjections and opinions about everything. After dinner, Lily insists on showing Sophie her room. Marcus cleans up while their voices drift down from upstairs. Lily's excited narration, Sophie's warm responses. He's loading the dishwasher when he hears it. "This is my mommy." Marcus freezes, plate suspended mid-air. "She's beautiful, Lily. That's what everyone says. I look like her, right?" "You absolutely do. You have her smile. Do you think she can see me? From heaven?" A pause. Marcus holds his breath. "I think," Sophie says carefully, "that love doesn't end when people die. I think your mommy's love is still with you every single day. In your smile, in your kindness, in the way you help other kids at Hope Harbor feel less alone. That's her love living on through you." Marcus sets the plate down carefully because his hands are shaking. He walks to the bottom of the stairs, not to eavesdrop, though that's exactly what he's doing, but because he needs to hear this, needs to understand how Sophie navigates this minefield of grief and memory and a child's desperate need for reassurance. "Miss Sophie," Lily's voice is smaller now, "do you think Daddy will ever be happy again?" Oh God. Marcus grips the banister. "What makes you think your daddy isn't happy, sweetheart?" He cries sometimes, at night, when he thinks I'm sleeping, and he talks to Mommy's picture like she's still here but she's not here, and I think maybe he's sad forever. Marcus closes his eyes. Of course Lily knows. Of course she's hurt him. He's been so careful, or so he thought, but children are perceptive in ways that make privacy impossible. "Can I tell you something?" Sophie's voice is gentle. Crying doesn't always mean someone's sad forever. Sometimes crying is how we let out the feelings so we can keep going. Your daddy loves your mommy very much. That doesn't stop just because she died. But I think your daddy is also learning how to be happy again. I think he's trying really hard for you, and I think he's doing a pretty great job, don't you? I guess. He makes me breakfast every day, and he reads to me at night, and he signed me up for Hope Harbor, even though I know he didn't want to. Why do you think he didn't want to? Because talking about sad things makes him sad. But he did it anyway, because he loves me more than he hates being sad. Marcus has to walk away, has to go back to the kitchen before they come downstairs and find him crying at the bottom of the stairs like some kind of emotional disaster. He's wiping his eyes with a dish towel when Sophie and Lily return, Lily chattering about showing Sophie her collection of rocks. Why does his child collect rocks? When did that start? And Sophie is smiling and patient and so fundamentally good that Marcus feels something crack open in his chest. They move to the living room, Rachel's living room, with Rachel's furniture and Rachel's throw pillows and Rachel's photographs on every available surface. Marcus tenses, waiting for Sophie to react, to be uncomfortable, to see the shrine and realize she's walked into a house haunted by a ghost who has no intention of leaving. But Sophie doesn't flinch. She looks at the photos, really looks at them, and then she does something that stops Marcus's heart. "Tell me about this one," she says to Lily, pointing at a photo of Rachel and Lily at the beach, both grinning at the camera with matching sunburns and ice cream smeared faces. And Lily does. Tells the story of that day, of the jellyfish that scared them, of the sandcastle that took 3 hours to build and was destroyed by a wave within minutes, of how Mummy laughed so hard she snorted, and that made Lily laugh even harder. Sophie listens like this story matters, like Rachel matters, like the past is something to be honored instead of tiptoed around. Then Sophie asks about another photo, and another. And somehow, this evening that Marcus was terrified would be awkward and painful transforms into something else entirely, an act of remembering, of keeping Rachel alive through stories, of teaching Lily and reminding Marcus that the dead don't have to be erased for the living to move forward. By the time Lily starts yawning, around 8:30, past her usual bedtime, but Marcus doesn't have the heart to enforce rules tonight, Sophie stands to leave. "This was lovely," she says, and Marcus can tell she means it. "Thank you for inviting me into your home. Thank you for—" Marcus gestures vaguely at everything, the evening, the patience, the way she honored Rachel instead of competing with her ghost. "Just thank you." Sophie smiles, and Marcus walks her to the door, while Lily protests that it's too early, and Miss Sophie should stay forever, and can we at least adopt that cat? At the door, Sophie pauses. "Marcus, Can I say something? His heart rate spikes. Of course, Lily told me something tonight, about you crying, about her worrying that you're sad forever. Sophie's eyes are kind but serious. I'm not trying to overstep, but I think maybe Lily needs to see you being happy. Not performing happiness, actually being happy. Kids are smart. They know the difference. Marcus swallows hard. I don't know how to do that. Be happy. Not without Rachel. Maybe that's not the right question, Sophie says softly. Maybe the question isn't how to be happy without Rachel. Maybe it's how to be happy while still loving Rachel. Those don't have to be mutually exclusive. She leaves before Marcus can respond, and he stands in the doorway watching her car disappear down the street, her words echoing in his head like a mantra or a curse or possibly both. How to be happy while still loving Rachel. Is that even possible? That night, after Lily is asleep, Marcus does something he hasn't done in 18 months. He goes to his laptop and opens the folder of photos he hasn't been able to look at, the ones from Rachel's last months, when cancer was winning, and they both knew it. He scrolls through them slowly. Rachel in her hospital bed, frail but smiling. Rachel with no hair, wearing the ridiculous fuzzy pink hat Lily picked out. Rachel holding Lily, both of them crying, both of them trying to be brave. And then the last photo, the one Marcus took, the day before she died. Rachel barely conscious, but she'd opened her eyes when he'd entered the room, and she'd smiled. God, even then she smiled. And she'd whispered something he had to lean in close to hear. Promise me you'll be happy, Marcus. Promise me you won't stop living. He'd promised. Of course he'd promised. You promise anything to someone who's dying because what else can you do? But he hadn't kept that promise. Hasn't kept it. Has been breaking it every single day for 18 months. Because being happy felt like betrayal, felt like forgetting, felt like admitting she didn't matter. But that's not what Rachel asked for. She didn't ask him to be miserable. Didn't ask him to build a shrine and live in it forever. She asked him to be happy, to keep living. Marcus closes the laptop and sits in the dark living room. Their living room, his living room, the living room that needs to make space for whatever comes next. And he thinks about Sophie's question. How to be happy while still loving Rachel. Maybe it starts with remembering the promise he made. Maybe it starts with recognizing that Rachel loved him enough to want his happiness even after she was gone. Maybe it starts with the terrifying realization that he's developing feelings for Sophie, feelings that don't erase what he felt for Rachel but exist alongside them, like two different songs playing in harmony instead of competition. Maybe it starts with taking off the ring. Marcus looks down at his left hand, at the gold band he's worn for 13 years. The ring Rachel slid onto his finger when they were 23 and stupid and so certain forever was achievable. The ring he's kept on like a talisman, like armor, like proof that he was chosen once, and that's enough for a lifetime. His hand moves to it, touches it, doesn't remove it. Not yet. He's not ready yet. But the thought has been planted. The possibility has been introduced. And in the weeks that follow, Marcus can't stop thinking about it. The weeks before Lily's birthday party are strange. Marcus sees Sophie twice a week at Hope Harbor, and their conversations deepen in ways that are probably inappropriate and definitely confusing. They talk about everything, their childhoods, their fears, their favorite books, the small absurdities of daily life. Sophie tells him about her almost wedding, about the fiancé who left 2 months before they were supposed to walk down the aisle. Marcus tells her about watching Rachel die, about the helplessness, about the way cancer took her in pieces before it took her completely. These are not light conversations. These are not the kind of things you discuss with casual acquaintances. But somehow, Sophie has become more than that, become someone Marcus trusts in ways he doesn't fully understand. And the more time he spends with her, the more he notices things he shouldn't be noticing. The way she bites her bottom lip when she's thinking. The way she's endlessly patient with the kids at Hope Harbor, but takes absolutely no shit from adults who underestimate them. The way she seems to understand grief not as something to fix, but as something to carry, as weather instead of wound. Marcus finds himself thinking about her at odd times, during work meetings, while making Lily's lunch, in the shower, which, no, that's inappropriate. He needs to not think about Sophie in the shower, What the hell is wrong with him? But he can't stop. Can't stop noticing. Can't stop feeling something that might be attraction, or might be gratitude, or might be his emotionally stunted heart confusing kindness with romance, because he's been so starved for human connection that any warmth feels like fire. 3 days before Lily's birthday party, Marcus picks her up from Hope Harbor to find his daughter unusually quiet in the car. "Everything okay, Lil?" "Daddy?" Lily's voice is small. "Can I ask you something?" "Always, sweetheart. Do you like Miss Sophie?" Marcus's hands tighten on the steering wheel. "Of course I like Miss Sophie. She's very nice and she's been wonderful with you." "No. I mean..." Lily pauses, searching for words. "Do you like her like Mommy used to say you liked her? Like special, like..." Oh God. Oh no. This is not a conversation Marcus is prepared to have. Not with his 8, almost 9-year-old daughter. Not with himself. Not with anyone. "Lily, Miss Sophie is a friend. But what if she could be more than a friend? Why are you asking me this?" Lily is quiet for a long moment. "Then because you smile different when you talk to her, like how you used to smile at Mommy. And I think maybe that's okay. I think maybe Mommy would think it's okay too." Marcus pulls into their driveway and sits there, engine off, staring straight ahead, because if he looks at Lily he's going to completely fall apart. "How do you know what Mommy would think?" "Because Mommy loved you, and when you love people, you want them to be happy. That's what Miss Sophie says. Out of the mouths of babes. Again. Always. Children understanding things adults can't process. I miss Mommy every day," Marcus says quietly. "That doesn't stop. I know, Daddy. I miss her too. But maybe we can miss her and also be happy. Maybe both things can be true." Marcus finally looks at his daughter, this wise, incredible child who somehow understands emotional complexity better than he does, and he sees Rachel in her face, Rachel's eyes, Rachel's smile, Rachel's fundamental goodness. "Yeah, baby," he manages. Maybe both things can be true. That night, Marcus does what he's been avoiding for weeks. He texts Sophie. "Can we talk? After the party Saturday?" Her response comes quickly, of course. "Everything okay?" "I think so. I hope so. I don't know. That's honest. I can work with honest." Marcus stares at that message for a long time. I can work with honest. What does that mean? What is he asking for? What is he hoping for? What the hell is he doing? But he knows. Deep down, beneath the fear and guilt and confusion, he knows. He's developing feelings for Sophie. Real feelings. The kind that make his chest tight and his thoughts scattered and his carefully controlled emotional state feel dangerously unstable. And he needs to either acknowledge those feelings or shut them down completely. But he can't keep existing in this liminal space where every conversation with Sophie feels charged with possibility, while Rachel's ghost watches from every photo frame in his house. Lily's birthday party is chaos in the best possible way. 12 kids from Hope Harbor, plus a few classmates from school, descend on the community center like a highly caffeinated swarm of noise and energy. Sophie and the other facilitators orchestrate games with military precision, musical chairs and relay races, and something involving water balloons that results in everyone getting soaked and no one caring. Marcus watches from the sidelines, takes photos, hands out juice boxes, and tries not to have a complete emotional breakdown because his daughter is 9 now, 9 years old, and Rachel is missing this. Rachel should be here orchestrating crafts and cutting cake and being the kind of mom who makes birthdays magical. But Rachel isn't here, and Marcus is doing his best, and Lily is laughing so hard she's crying, and maybe that's enough. When they sing Happy Birthday, Marcus's voice cracks on Lily's name. Sophie, standing across the table, catches his eye and smiles, and something passes between them. Something wordless and significant that Marcus feels in his bones. After the party, after the kids are gone, and the cleanup is done, and Lily is with Marcus's mother for a sleepover, a birthday treat so Marcus can have an evening to himself, Sophie and Marcus sit in his car in the Hope Harbor parking lot. It's starting to rain again, drops hitting the windshield in an irregular rhythm that somehow feels appropriate for this conversation Marcus doesn't know how to have. "So, Sophie says gently. You wanted to talk. Marcus grips the steering wheel even though the car isn't running. Looks straight ahead. Takes a breath. I don't know how to do this. Any of this. I haven't been a person who talks about feelings or processes emotions or does any of the healthy things you're supposed to do. I've just been surviving. Barely. For 18 months. And then you showed up and said Rachel's name like it was normal and helped Lily smile again and came to my house and didn't. Run screaming from the shrine I've built to my dead wife and I don't. He has to stop, breathe, collect himself. I don't know what I'm asking for. I don't know what I'm allowed to want. But I think about you constantly, and I feel guilty for thinking about you, and I'm terrified I'm going to mess this up and hurt you, or hurt myself, or hurt Lily, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. The silence that follows is excruciating. Marcus risks a glance at Sophie, expecting to see pity or discomfort or polite withdrawal. Instead, she's crying. Sophie, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. No. She wipes her eyes, laughs wetly. No, you didn't do anything wrong. That's just the most honest thing anyone's said to me in years. She shifts in her seat to face him fully. Marcus, I need to be honest too. I have feelings for you, real feelings. And I've been terrified to acknowledge them because I don't want to be the rebound, don't want to be the woman who tries to replace someone irreplaceable, don't want to be the reason you feel guilty or the person you resent later for making you move on before you were ready. You're not a rebound, Marcus says immediately. You're not replacement anything. You're Sophie. And I think about the way you listen and the way you honor Rachel instead of being threatened by her and the way Lily lights up when she sees you and the way I feel. Like maybe I could be happy again. And that terrifies me because being happy feels like betraying Rachel, but she literally asked me to be happy and I promised her, and I'm breaking that promise every day by being miserable, and... Sophie reaches across the center console and takes his hand. Just holds it. The touch is electric and grounding simultaneously. We don't have to figure everything out right now, she says quietly. We don't have to have all the answers or make big decisions or know exactly what this is. Maybe we just acknowledge that we both feel something. Maybe we just agree to be honest with each other as we figure it out. Maybe that's enough for now. Marcus looks at their joined hands, his left hand, the one with the ring she hasn't asked him to remove, the ring that suddenly feels impossibly heavy. I'm not ready to take this off, he admits, ashamed. I'm not asking you to, Sophie says. When you're ready, if you're ever ready, that's your decision. I'm not here to give ultimatums or demand you stop loving Rachel. I wouldn't want to be with someone who could just turn off love like a switch. Then, what do you want? Sophie considers this. I want honesty. I want us to try, slowly, carefully, to see if this could be something real. I want to honor Rachel's memory as part of your story, not pretend she never existed. And I want permission to fall for you without guilt, and for you to have permission. To fall for me, if that's what happens, without feeling like you're betraying anyone. It sounds reasonable. It sounds healthy. It sounds like exactly what any therapist would recommend. But it also sounds terrifying because it means actually trying, actually risking his heart again, actually admitting that life continues even after devastating loss. Okay. Marcus hears himself say, okay, let's try. And sitting in that car, in the rain, holding hands with a woman who is not his wife, but could maybe, possibly, someday become someone equally important, Marcus feels something he hasn't felt in 18 months. He feels hope. But here's what neither of them knows yet, what they can't possibly anticipate as they sit in that parking lot planning careful, slow steps forward. Grief doesn't operate on schedules, doesn't respect plans, doesn't care about your intentions to heal in measured, responsible ways. Grief is patient and cruel, and has a way of showing up exactly when you think you've finally got control, exactly when you dare to hope for something new. And Marcus is about to learn that the hardest part of moving forward isn't deciding to try. It's surviving the moment when guilt and hope collide with such force that you have to choose, definitively and devastatingly, between the promise you made to a dead woman and the life you could have with a living one. So the question hanging in the rain-soaked air isn't whether Marcus and Sophie will try. The question is whether Marcus can survive what trying will cost him when the guilt comes roaring back, and it will come roaring back, threatening to destroy everything he's tentatively started building before he's even sure he has permission to build it. So here's the question that keeps Marcus awake for the next 3 nights. The question that haunts him while he makes Lily's breakfast and sits through meaningless work meetings and pretends to be a functional human being. What happens when you finally give yourself permission to be happy again, only to discover that permission doesn't actually erase the guilt, it just gives it a new target to destroy? Because Marcus and Sophie agree to try, they shake hands on honesty and slow steps and mutual respect for complicated emotions, and for exactly 4 days Marcus feels something adjacent to peace. He takes Sophie for coffee. They talk for 2 hours about everything and nothing. He doesn't take off his ring, but he thinks about it. They make plans for another dinner, this time just the 2 of them. No Lily as buffer. Sophie smiles at him in a way that makes his chest feel both lighter and heavier simultaneously. Everything is moving forward. Everything is careful and promising and terrifying in all the right ways. And then comes the anniversary, Rachel's death anniversary. 18 months becomes 24 months. 2 full years since Cancer won and Marcus lost, and the world kept spinning with devastating indifference. Marcus takes the day off work. He does this every month on the date she died, this ritual of grief he can't seem to break. He gets Lily ready for school, kisses her forehead, watches her leave with his mother who's picking her up today because she knows, everyone knows, this day breaks Marcus in ways the other days don't. And then he's alone in the house with Rachel's ghost and his guilt and the crushing realization that he was planning a second date with Sophie while approaching the 2-year mark of his wife's death. And what kind of monster does that make him? He drives to the cemetery, sits by Rachel's grave with flowers, white roses, always white roses, the same ones from their wedding arch. The headstone is simple: Rachel Marie Thompson, beloved wife and mother, taken too soon. Marcus traces the letters with his fingers the way he used to trace the curve of her smile in photographs, and he talks to her. Actually talks out loud like she can hear him, like the molecules of her consciousness somehow linger in this space where her body rests. "I don't know what I'm doing, Rach," he says, voice breaking immediately, because apparently he has no emotional regulation left at all. "I promised you I'd be happy, and I'm trying. God, I'm trying so hard. But it feels wrong. Feels like I'm replacing you, like I'm saying you didn't matter enough, like I'm moving on too fast even though it's been 2 years and some people would say that's not fast at all, but it feels fast, feels impossibly fast when I can still remember exactly what you smelled like and how you laughed and the way you said my name when you were happy versus when you were annoyed. The sky is grey, threatening rain. Of course it's threatening rain. This day would never dare to be sunny. There's someone," Marcus continues, and saying it out loud to Rachel's grave feels like the ultimate betrayal. Her name is Sophie. She works with Lily at the grief program. She's kind and patient, and she says your name like you're a real person instead of a tragedy. And Lily adores her, and I think I'm falling for her. And I hate myself for it. Hate that my heart is capable of this. Hate that love didn't actually die with you, even though I was so certain it did. He sits there for 3 hours. Just sits. Crying sometimes, silent others. Talking occasionally to the grass and stone that represent all that's left of the woman he built his entire adult life around. And somewhere in those 3 hours, in that grey space between grief and acceptance, Marcus makes a decision that will either save him or destroy him. He drives home, goes directly to the bedroom, opens the drawer where he's kept Rachel's things, jewelry, letters, small precious items he couldn't bear to move. At the bottom is a small wooden box, the one where he stored his most valuable memories. Inside, their wedding invitation, dried flowers from her hospital room, the last birthday card she wrote him before she got too weak to hold a pen, and the ring, his wedding ring, still on his finger, still binding him to a promise made when forever seemed achievable. Marcus sits on the edge of the bed, their bed, his bed, the bed that needs to become just a bed instead of a shrine, and he slowly, carefully, with hands that shake so badly he can barely manage it, removes the ring, slides it off his finger for the first time in 13 years. The skin underneath is pale, slightly indented, marked by the commitment he wore like armor. He holds the ring in his palm, kisses it, then places it carefully in the wooden box, alongside everything else he'll always keep, but can't keep wearing. He doesn't throw it away, doesn't hide it or deny it or pretend those 13 years didn't happen. He just acknowledges that keeping it on isn't honoring Rachel. It's preventing Marcus from keeping the promise he made her. Promise me you'll be happy. He's going to try. He's really going to try. That evening, Sophie comes over. Marcus called her earlier, voice rough from crying, and asked if she could come by after Lily went to sleep. He needed to see her, needed to show her something. Sophie agreed without questions, without demands for explanation. And that's part of why Marcus is falling for her. She understands that sometimes you need presence without interrogation. She arrives at 8:30. Marcus lets her in, and she takes one look at his face and knows this day has destroyed him. She doesn't ask if he's okay. What a useless question that would be. She just follows him to the living room and sits beside him on the couch, close but not touching, waiting. "I went to see Rachel today," Marcus says. "At the cemetery. 2-year anniversary of her death. How are you doing?" Sophie's voice is gentle. Marcus stops, starts again. "I took off my ring." He holds up his left hand, bare now, pale band of skin, the only evidence of what was there before. Sophie's eyes widen slightly, but she doesn't react with triumph or relief or any of the things Marcus half feared she might feel. "Marcus," she says quietly, "you didn't have to do that for me. I didn't do it for you." He looks at her directly now. "I did it for Rachel, for the promise I made her. She asked me to be happy, and I can't do that while still pretending I'm married to someone who's gone. Keeping the ring on wasn't honoring her memory, it was breaking my promise to her." Sophie's eyes fill with tears. "That's incredibly brave." "It doesn't feel brave, it feels terrifying. Like I've just cut off a limb and I'm waiting for the phantom pain. Can I tell you something?" Sophie shifts closer, takes his hand, his ringless left hand, in both of hers. "Taking off a ring doesn't mean you stopped loving her. It means you're making space for something new while keeping everything that was. Those aren't mutually exclusive. I know. Logically, I know. But my heart is still catching up to what my brain understands." They sit like that for a long moment, hands joined, the weight of significance settling around them like snow. And then Sophie says something that changes everything. "I'm not trying to replace her, Marcus. I could never replace her. But I'd like to be something new. Something different. If you'll let me." Marcus looks at this woman, this patient, kind, impossibly understanding woman who has somehow become essential to his life in the span of a few months, and he realizes that he's not choosing between Rachel and Sophie. He's choosing between staying frozen in the past or cautiously stepping toward a future. And Rachel, the woman who loved him fiercely enough to ask him to be happy even after she was gone, would choose the future for him. "I'd like that," Marcus says, voice rough with emotion. "I'd really like that." Sophie smiles through her tears, and Marcus leans in, slowly, giving her time to pull away, giving himself time to panic, and kisses her. It's tentative and careful, and nothing like kissing Rachel, which is both sad and strangely appropriate, because Sophie isn't Rachel and that's okay. That's actually the point. This is different. This is new. This is Marcus learning that his heart didn't die with his wife. It just went dormant, waiting for the right person to remind it how to beat again. When they break apart, Sophie whispers, "We're going to take this slow, okay? One day at a time. No pressure, no expectations. Just honesty. One day at a time," Marcus agrees. But here's what Marcus doesn't anticipate, what he's not prepared for despite his best intentions and careful planning, Lily's reaction. Because 3 days later, when Lily comes home from school and notices her father's bare left hand, she freezes in the doorway. Just stops completely, staring at his ringless finger with an expression Marcus can't quite read. "Daddy?" Her voice is small. "Where's your ring?" Marcus's heart pounds. He kneels down to her level. "I took it off, sweetheart. I put it somewhere safe, in a special box with other things of Mummy's that I'll always treasure." "Why?" And there are tears in Lily's eyes now, unexpected tears that make Marcus's chest constrict. "Because," he has to choose his words carefully, "because I think Mummy would want me to keep living, to be happy, And I think maybe keeping the ring on was making it hard for me to do that. But you're still married to Mommy, Lily says, and the logic is both heartbreaking and perfectly childlike. Married people wear rings. Mommy and I will always be connected, Marcus says gently. She'll always be your mother, and she'll always be someone I loved very much. But Mummy's gone, Lil, and I think she'd want me to maybe, someday, have someone new in my life. Someone who could make me happy again. Lily is quiet for a long moment, processing. Then, Miss Sophie, Marcus's breath catches. Would that be okay with you? If Miss Sophie and I spent more time together? Like dating? Maybe. Eventually. If that's something we both wanted. Lily wipes her eyes, thinking with the seriousness of someone much older. Finally she says, I think Mummy would like Miss Sophie. I think she'd be happy you're not sad all the time anymore. A pause. I'm happy you're not sad all the time anymore. Marcus pulls her into a hug, holding his daughter tight, and something that's been locked in his chest for 2 years finally starts to loosen. I love you so much, Lily girl. I love you too, Daddy. And I miss Mommy. But I think it's okay to love Miss Sophie too. I think our hearts are big enough for both, out of the mouths of babes. Always. Every time. This child who understands emotional complexity better than any adult Marcus knows. The weeks that follow are strange and wonderful and occasionally terrifying. Marcus and Sophie start dating, actually dating, like adults who acknowledge mutual feelings and desire for something real. They go to dinner. They see movies. They take walks in the park while Lily is with Marcus's mother. And slowly, carefully, they build something that's entirely their own. Sophie never tries to erase Rachel. She asks questions about her, listens to stories, includes her memory in conversations. When Marcus has bad grief days, because grief never actually ends, it just changes shape, Sophie sits with him, holds space for his sadness without trying to fix it. And when Marcus has good days, when he laughs freely or makes plans for the future or dares to hope, Sophie celebrates with him without making it weird or significant or pressure-filled. 6 months after that first kiss, Sophie meets Marcus's extended family at Lily's school play. His mother approves, guardedly, protectively, but approves. His sister pulls Sophie aside and says something that makes Sophie cry, though she won't tell Marcus what it was. His best friend shakes Sophie's hand and says, thanks for reminding him he's allowed to be happy. And Lily? Lily blossoms. She still has her hard days, still draws pictures of heaven sometimes, still misses her mother with an ache that will probably never completely disappear. But she's also happy. She calls Sophie by her first name now, without the miss, and Sophie has become a fixture in their lives. Dinner twice a week, weekend activities, bedtime stories when Marcus has to work late. One evening, Marcus finds Lily making a card at the kitchen table. What's that for, sweetheart? It's for Sophie. For her birthday next week. Marcus peers over her shoulder. The card has 3 stick figures drawn on it, 1 tall male figure, 1 female figure with dark hair, 1 smaller figure with blonde hair. They're holding hands. Above them, in the clouds, is another figure with yellow hair and angel wings. That's Mommy, Lily explains, pointing to the angel. She's watching us be happy. I think she likes Sophie too. Marcus has to leave the room because he's crying again. But this time, they're different tears. Not grief tears or guilt tears, but something closer to gratitude. Gratitude that his daughter is healing. Gratitude that he's found someone who honors the past while building a future. Gratitude that love, impossibly, turned out not to be a finite resource, but something that expands to hold multiple truths simultaneously. A year after taking off his ring, Marcus takes Sophie to the cemetery. It's not morbid or weird. It's necessary. Sophie has been part of their lives long enough that she deserves to be acknowledged in this space where Rachel rests. They stand together by the headstone, and Marcus talks to Rachel the way he always does, out loud, unashamed. Rach, this is Sophie. I've told you about her before, but she's here now. She's been incredible with Lily. With me, she doesn't try to replace you. I don't think anyone could. But she's become her own, important person in our lives. And I think you'd approve. I think you'd like her. I think you'd be glad Lily has another strong woman to look up to. and that I have someone who reminds me how to be human again. Sophie is crying quietly beside him, and Marcus takes her hand. I'm keeping my promise, he continues. The one about being happy. It's hard sometimes. I still miss you. Lily still misses you. But we're learning that missing you and being happy aren't opposites. They're just different rooms in the same house. And Sophie's helped us learn how to move between those rooms without getting lost. They stand there for a while longer, the three of them, Marcus, Sophie, and Rachel's memory, existing together in complicated harmony. When they finally leave, Marcus feels lighter than he has in 3 years. That evening, Marcus and Sophie are sitting on his porch while Lily plays in the yard. The sun is setting, painting everything gold and pink, and Marcus realizes this is what contentment feels like. Not the explosive joy of falling in love at 23, but the quieter, deeper satisfaction of rebuilding a life you thought was over. I love you, he says. And it's the first time he said it to anyone besides Lily and Rachel in over a decade. Sophie turns to him, eyes wide. Marcus, I love you, he repeats, more certain now. Not the same way I loved Rachel. That was first love, young love, the kind that shapes who you become. This is different. This is choosing love after loss. This is mature love that knows how fragile everything is and chooses to risk it anyway. And it's real. And I needed you to know. Sophie's crying again. She cries a lot, this woman who feels everything deeply. And she says, I love you too. I've loved you for months, but I was afraid to say it, afraid you weren't ready, afraid I'd be asking for something you couldn't give. I'm ready, Marcus says. Finally. Completely. Ready. They kiss as the sun sets and Lily plays, and somewhere in heaven or the universe or wherever the dead go when they leave us, Marcus chooses to believe Rachel is smiling. Because that's what love does. It wants happiness for the people it touched, even after it's gone. So here's the truth Marcus learns. The truth that takes 3 years and countless tears and one impossibly patient woman to understand. Moving on doesn't mean moving away from the people you've lost. It means carrying them forward in new ways, in the lessons they taught you, and the love they gave you, and the memories that never fade. Rachel shaped Marcus, made him a better man, a better father, someone capable of deep love. And that capacity didn't die with her, it just waited for someone like Sophie to remind him it still existed. This is what life after loss looks like. Not forgetting, not replacing, not pretending the past didn't happen, but opening your heart enough to let new love in while keeping space for old love to remain. Both things can be true. Both loves can matter. And your heart, impossibly, is big enough for all of it. Marcus and Sophie get married 2 years later in a small ceremony with close friends and family. Lily is the flower girl, wearing a necklace that belonged to Rachel. Sophie's vows include a promise to honor Rachel's memory and help keep her alive for Lily. Marcus's vows include gratitude for Rachel, for Sophie, for second chances he didn't think he deserved. And at the reception, when Marcus dances with his new wife while Lily watches with pure joy on her face, he thinks about promises kept and lives rebuilt and the surprising resilience of the human heart. He thinks about Rachel, always Rachel, and hopes wherever she is, she's proud of him for finally keeping his word. He's happy, against all odds, through unimaginable grief, despite every reason to stay frozen in the past. He's happy. And that's not betrayal. That's love in its truest, most enduring form. So now I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a loss so profound you thought you'd never recover? Have you watched someone you love struggle to move forward after grief? Or maybe you're that person right now, stuck between honoring the past and embracing a possible future, wondering if your heart has room for both. Drop a comment below and tell me your story. Tell me about the person you lost or the love you found after loss or the promise you're trying to keep. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that healing doesn't mean forgetting, that moving forward doesn't mean betrayal, that your heart is bigger than you think. And if Marcus and Sophie's story touched you, if you believe in second chances and complicated love and the courage it takes to be happy again, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's keep telling stories about the messy, beautiful, heartbreaking reality of being human. Because these stories, they matter. Your story matters. And maybe, just maybe, Sharing it will help someone else find the courage to take off their ring, open their heart, and remember that forever isn't actually over just because someone's gone. It just looks different than you expected. I'll see you in the next story.